Talk talk, yeah, we keeping it smooth. Your favorite paralegal got the legal groove. From the stars in the courtroom to your cousin's case, we breaking it all down. No rush, just pace. Two hearings are now on the calendar in the Carmelo Anthony case. One August 19th and the other August 20th. They're not the same thing, even though a lot of people are talking about them like they are. One is a motion to recuse the judge, the other is a motion for a new trial. And neither one of those is the same as an appeal, which is probably the word you guys have heard the most. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what each of these three things does, how they differ, and what's actually scheduled to happen next in this case. I'm Cassandra, aka your favorite paralegal, and this is Legal Doc Talk. So we're going to start with the recusal. And this is procedurally the first thing that needs to happen. So, a motion to recuse asks a judge to step aside from a case because his impartiality is reasonably in question. It's not an accusation that the judge broke the law. It's just a request that he not be the one deciding what happens next because the circumstances create too much doubt about his neutrality. Everybody got that? So in this case, Anthony's new legal team argues that Judge Roach compromised his neutrality by publicly defending the verdict to reporters and in a letter posted to the county website after the trial ended, before he'd asked to rule on post-trial motions attacking the same verdict. Okay. Here's the part that surprises people. Under Texas Rules of Civil Procedure 18A, which also governs recusal procedure in criminal cases, the judge being challenged does not get to just deny it himself in most circumstances. He either voluntarily recuses or the matter has to go to another judge to decide. And that's exactly what's happening here. The recusal motion is set to be heard on August 19th by Judge Sid Harl. And I used to say Harley, and someone corrected me. His is Harl. I'm from the country, so that E, the E is silent, but I'm gonna say Harley, but his name is Harl. So Judge Sid Harl, who is a different judge brought in specifically to decide whether Judge Roach should be removed from the rest of this case. Judge Harl isn't deciding anything about Anthony's guilt or the sentence. His only job at the hearing is to decide whether Roach can fairly continue presiding. If Harl grants it, a new judge steps in for everything that follows. If he denies it, then Judge Roach will stay on the case. All right, I hope you guys are taking notes. Now let's talk about this motion for new trial. And this is completely separate. This motion argues that the trial itself had serious enough problems. They've pointed to a restricted courtroom and jury instructions issues that the conviction shouldn't stand and Anthony should get an entirely new trial in front of a new jury. This is what the defense team is arguing. This is still a trial court motion. It's not an appellate court reviewing a paper record. It's argued in front of a judge, often with live testimony and evidence, the same courthouse where the trial happens. This one is set for August 20th, and they said it's going to last probably a half a day. But it's unlike a lot of motion hearings that wrapped up in an hour. Okay. So this is going to take at least a half a day, if not the whole day. And it tells you that the court is expecting substantial argument and possible witness testimony, not just a quick back and forth between lawyers. Here's what's still unsettled. The judge who will hear and rule on the motion for a new trial has not yet been determined. That's directly tied to segment one. So if Judge Harl removes Roach on August 19th, whoever replaces him could end up being the one hearing the new trial motion that very next day. If Harl keeps Roach on the case, then Roach could be the one ruling on it. We may not know which judge is in that chair until the recusal decision comes down. So for I hope that answers everybody's question about whoever the judge is, how can they rule on something and they don't know the case? It's a lot more than just hearing the case, okay? Like I said before, it's going to be in front of whatever judge. It's going to be live testimony and evidence in the same courtroom. Well, in the same courthouse. I don't want to say the courtroom because we don't know whose courtroom is going to be assigned to. It's going to last at least a half of day. So it's not just both sides going back and forth. Everybody got that? Now, here's where most people get confused because appeal gets used as a catch all word for the case isn't over yet. But a real appeal is a specific I said Pacific, a specific later step, and it looks nothing like what's going on August 19th and 20th. An appeal goes to a different court entirely. In Texas, a court of appeals staffed by appellate justices, not the trial judge. There's no new testimony, no new evidence, no witnesses. The appellate court reviews the written trial record, which is the transcripts, the exhibits, the rulings, and they decide whether the trial judge made any legal errors serious enough to require reversing the conviction or ordering a new trial. Appeals also typically happen after the trial court has finished with post trial motions, meaning, particularly speaking, after things like a new trial motion gets resolved one way or another at the trial court level first. So, if you took notes, look at your notes. All right, side by side. So, a recusal by a different judge. Ask only should this judge stay on the case. That is going to be decided on August 19th. A motion for a new trial, decided at the trial court level. Argues the trial had serious enough problems to redo it. That's going to be decided on August 20th over a full day. The appeal, that's decided by an appellate court later. They review the record for legal error, no witness, no new evidence. They can overlap in time, but they're answering completely different questions in front of completely different decision makers. Now, here's why the sequencing on August 19th and 20th actually matters beyond just, being back and forth on the calendar or back to back on the calendar. If Judge Harl grants recusal, that changes who's sitting for the new trial motion the next day. And a new judge coming in cold has to get up to speed on the case that's already been through a full trial and a wave of post verdict motions. If Harl denies the recusal, then Roach goes straight from being publicly defending his own verdict to ruling on a motion that argues his own trial was flawed enough to redo. Either way, whoever ends up ruling on the new trial motion is deciding something with real consequences. If granted, Anthony gets an entirely new trial. If denied, the case moves forward or, toward the appellate track that we just talked about. Two hearings back to back deciding two very different questions. And a third process, the appeal, still waiting in the wings depending on how these two turn out. I'll be covering both hearings as they happen, so make sure that you are subscribed to Legal Doc Talk so you don't miss the breakdown the moment the rulings come in. Again, I'm Cassandra, aka your favorite paralegal, and this has been Legal Doc Talk. Bye.